Hi guys, so this week we're going to talk about the temple sermon of Jeremiah, and please bear with me. I've been under the weather this week, but basically the passage starts off with God already being ready to refute and debunk an argument that he has heard them use, because apparently in Jeremiah's day, when he would try to talk about judgment, the people would say, no, it's the temple of the Lord, the temple of the Lord, it's the temple of the Lord, which basically comes down to that the people were so convinced of the protection that was offered because of a couple of things. First of all, Hezekiah, a couple hundred years before, had been spared. The city had not been destroyed with Sennacherib. And so then on top of that, there was like the Davidic line, which God had made a promise of the Davidic dynasty that there would always be a descendant of David that would sit on the throne. And so that combined with the temple being God's holy house where his presence resided, they just believed that it was an indisputable place where nothing could happen, that judgment would not come there. It's where God lives. And so God was like, no. And he pointed out to them and said, do you remember Shiloh in how that I basically in Ephraim, that Shiloh had been destroyed, and that was an example of how that God could do it again. In Jeremiah 7:14, it says, therefore I will do to the house that is called by my name, in which you trust, and in the place that I gave you and to your fathers, as I did to Shiloh. So he's basically saying, no, your argument of the temple of the Lord isn't going to work. He goes right to calling out the things that they're not doing right. They're not living justly. They're not defending the fatherless. They're not protecting the widows. They're not protecting the weak people, the aliens and those among them that are in a hardship. They are basically needing to repent and live justly before the Lord and not lie, not steal, not kill, not cheat, but also they need to stop the idolatrous ways. There's a lot of different gods that are discussed. Baal is one of them. The mother of I don't remember, mother of the earth or something like that. And it's all of this idolatrous practice. But the people are also considering themselves doing these religious rites. It's almost like they have put God in a box alongside these other gods and said, we're just checking off our religious duties and we're doing things for these gods and for God too. And he should just be happy because we are offering sacrifices to him. And they, according to the interpretation of Jeremiah, it was oh, sorry, I'm losing my spot. They didn't acknowledge God's heart. They in many ways felt like they were just performing these rites for him and doing whatever that he wanted. And in the interpretation of Jeremiah, it says, by depriving themselves of part of the benefit that God's bounty had given them, men and women felt sure that he would respond favorably to them. They didn't reckon with the wider aspect of their daily conduct. They forgot that God desires obedience more than sacrifice. And so ultimately, destruction was coming, and that's kind of where it ends, is this really grave note of destruction's on its way, because they are more about doing things but not connecting with God, who is their creator and maker. And so Jeremiah's sermon is really relevant today because we need to remember that our nation will be held accountable for injustices and idolatry as well. But as people of God, we are the ones who need to repent individually. We need to make sure that we are standing for justice and living justly. We need to make sure that we are not exalting things and people above God and making him the only one that we seek as our source. But we also should not be doing things out of a religious obligatory response just to get him to meet our needs and our prayers. We need to guard against that kind of approach to God and make sure that the way we're seeking him is in honor of him and worshiping him because he's worthy, and really loving him because God is a way maker and he loves to provide for his children. But we need to make sure that we're seeking his face and his heart and not just his hands.